Hey folks, Gentle Payload here, and today I want to do a quick tutorial on how to add weathering to the MWO camo masks for import into Battletech using Quixel Suite 2. You're going to need a few things. You're going to need an actual mesh, which I am going to use the Nova for this. You need the normal map for the Nova. And if you so choose, you will need an ambient occlusion map. Now, if you don't have an ambient occlusion map, you can take the normal map and you can convert it. So if you open Endu, hit the menu here, go to the map converter, and then select your normal map file and just hit generate. And it will spit out an ambient occlusion map. The base MWO texture set does not come with this map, so this is the best way I've found to generate it. And then once it's done, you can actually take and you can adjust the shadow level. You can make it fine, you can make it super heavy, however you want. And then once that's done, just close Endu. And then save as whatever you're going to save it as. I generally save it as a PNG file. There we are. And I would save it here. I've already got one made, so I'm not going to bother. All right, so let's go ahead and open my AO map. Oh, yes, close the other one when you're done. Otherwise, Dedo might get confused. So that's what I have open here. I have Dedo, and it allows me to pull all these up. You're also going to want a curvature map. That's going to allow you to do things like edges and inside cracks. Like if you wanted to put dirt or sand in the cracks, it's going to use the curvature map to do that. And then for the camo mask that we want to edit, we're going to put that here in the pre-baked albedo. So I am using the Jade Falcon mask. And then once you have all those loaded, click create and sit back and wait. So how we're going to be doing this is we're going to add a couple of masks to, you can see how the background here is all black. We're going to add more black into it, and then once we're done, we'll take that and import it into GIMP, because I'm much more familiar with GIMP than I am Photoshop. So I'll import it into GIMP. I will add an alpha channel, and then I will alpha all the black so that it will be it'll end up being transparent. So you'll see. All right. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open 3Do, which opens the model, puts the normal map on it, the ambient occlusion map on it, and the texture on it, so you can actually see as you work. I like that feature. And then so we'll go through and add a couple of masks and see how it looks. Down, just zoom in a bit, turn it to rotate is alt and left click, and then if you hold shift and right click, you can turn the light as well, so you get a good idea of what you're looking at. Take that and move it over, because I actually like to see what's happening to the mask as well, because once we pull up the mask itself will show up. So how to get started, go down to the bottom here, add a clean layer, and the color on your clean layer is going to come up as a light gray, and this is actually cool because it shows off all your ambient occlusion and your normal maps, and shows all that extra detail that gets put in there. But for now, we're going to take that and we're going to make it all black. Then we're going to hit this first box here, Edit Dynamask. and it's going to ask you if you want to paint in full shaded mode. I like to paint in full shaded mode because it actually allows you to paint directly on the mech, and I'll get into that here in a second. So for our first mask, I want to go for heavy flaked paint. So as you can see, we have a ton of dark spots in here. You're like, okay, well, that's a little too much because most of our paint is not going to come through. There's a couple of ways that you can go about doing this. One of the ways I do this is I go into the secondary texture and I play with the brightness and the contrast. So turn the brightness down, the contrast up. That brings it down a little bit. Once we get to that part, you can actually use the paint feature here. I like to take this down to about 0.2. And if you have it painted, then you can just take and kind of click and lighten it up a little bit. Give this a turn. Zoom in. Here we go. So you can take and you can lighten it up a bit. And if you go a little too far, say it goes all the way, just click the erase tool up here and it'll paint it right back in. So I want to take and lighten this up because I still want my paint color to come through. I just want it to be faded. I don't want it to be completely gone. Because we're going to add some other masks. I mean, if this is the only mask that you're going to do, then go heavy with it if you want. It's really up to you. Just kind of play with it until you get it where you like it. And make some adjustments. Yeah. Like I said, I like to keep the weathering and the detail a little on the subtle side because I'm going to be adding multiple. Turn the light around so I can get a good view onto this side. I don't know if you can hear the mouse, but I mean, all I'm doing is just quick clicks. That just brings it down a little bit at a time. Feet. And hit the back. There we go. There we go. All right. So I'm fairly happy with that, at least for the tutorial. So we're going to add a second mask. And this mask is going to require that curvature map that I was talking about earlier. So again, I'm going to color it all to black, and then I'm going to go in, edit the Dynamask. And this time I am going to add edge cracked paint. So this time I'm going to do most of my adjustments in the curvature. So if I take the large curvature all the way down, see it starts to get darker and darker and darker. Take the huge curvatures down, and as I do this, it should get darker. There we go. So what I want to do is I want to take it and I just want to make it to where I'm just getting edge wear. Like this is even here is a little too much. And you're like, wait, the whole thing's going to be transparent. Not quite. I like it because it shows where the color is showing through is where the edge wear is going to end up being. Let's see. Bring them medium down some more, soft down some. Now I can actually take the big back up a little bit. Like I said, I kind of mess around with the different settings until I find what I like. And that'll do. Again, you can do brightness and contrast here. I will probably turn the brightness down. Ooh, that's a little too much. I tweak it back up a bit. A -15. There we go. That works. So that's just little tiny pops of colors coming through. And then what we'll do is we'll take and we'll invert that mask. By inverting that mask, now all those little tiny pops of color are shifted to black. Now, if you want to stay with the black, the other option that you can do is, like I had said before, bring the brightness down, bring the contrast up. Bring the brightness up and the contrast up. There we go. It was the brightness up and contrast up. It's a little different for every mask. You just gotta mess with it. And you can see that the edges are definitely a lot more defined and as where the edge wear is. It is definitely in the edges, but instead of being on the outside edges like it was when we had it inverted, it's more in the middle now. It's like these very hard edges. So it really depends on where you want your detail to be. Like I said, I like this style of edge wear a little better. That's just bright. I only want a little bit coming through. That might even be a little too much, but we'll make it work. So now I invert that and I have another wear mask. And then there are a ton of different pre-made masks in here that you can use. Let's add one more. I think this time we're going to go with what is going to be a directional mask. And I'll probably use the sun bleach mask for this. So, I mean, I was talking about there's all kinds of things like the sand. When you see it kind of in the curved lines like this, this is edges. So this would be like sand down in the grooves. There's dirt, like sandy dirt, which is kind of all over. You can do surfaced rust, which is kind of just on the outside of the edges. There's a bunch of different stuff. I like sun bleach because it gives a faded effect. When you put it in, it's like way too heavy. But what this uses is the object space direction. So what the object space direction does is you can tell it to come from the left or the right or the top or the bottom, so that the bulk of your texturing is wherever. Like here it's set to top. If I do that, then it is very heavy towards the top. So you can see all my sun. I mean, it's like super sun bleached out here. So that, for my taste, is a little too much. And some of the object spaces are not quite correct, because you will see that there's a good bit of sun bleaching on the side here. But if you want to not have quite so much on the side towards the bottom, you just do like we did with the first mask and go through and paint it out. I don't want so much sun bleaching. And even on the top, I don't want too much sun bleaching, because what this will do is it'll completely wash out the paint. So I just take it and lighten it up a little bit, so you get a good bit of wear showing, but not too much. Your paint still comes through. That overall gives the mech a pretty good weathered effect from what we were at before, with those super bright colors. And gives us a lot of color variation, especially in here where you have the really brights and the really darks. So all this black is going to end up being transparent, and it will let whatever the base texture underneath of it is come through. So we will save this mask. Oh yeah, that is nice and dirty now. So down here, just click save. Minimize this. I use GIMP, like I said, just because I'm more a little more familiar with GIMP. Oh, I will take and I will open. It's under the Nova. This is going to be in Mech 4, and if you go into the previewer and texture set 1 and find your albedo map, and there's the map that we just got done doing. So go to transparency, add an alpha channel, go back to transparency, and color to alpha. And eventually it will pop up and ask you what color you want to use. There you are. So I want to alpha out the black, and I want to set the threshold to 0.5. Otherwise, you're not going to have a whole lot of paint here, because it's a whole... I mean, it makes it really, really transparent, and you will barely see your paint. So if you do 0.5, that still gives you some good solid paint colors, but it also gives you some nice transparency, which will show up as your wear. And then once that's done, I'll actually go into exposure and set the exposure to 2, which will make it nice and bright. Nice and bright means that your bright colors will be bright and your normal colors will be normal. If you leave it dark like it was, your normal colors will be really, really dark and won't show up. And your bright colors will look like normal colors. So with that, you just export to wherever it is you want to save it. I will try to export here, replace, export, and done. And then from there, you just take it and do the dance. For those of you that do this on a regular basis, you'll put it into your asset bundle and do a test drop and check it out. So if you got any questions, hit me on Discord. Those of you that are watching this probably know where to find me. Just ping me, and I'll be happy to clear anything up. All right, have a good night.